episode 3 of the One-on-Ones podcast on the Field of 12 Media Network presented by Bed River Sportsbook. And Coty, man, we're going to jump this thing off. We're going to go ahead and start it off, man. In the ACC, God, boy, they had a rough one this past weekend. Coty, they had a rough one, bro. They had a rough one.
My boy, I had to take a drink last night. When I tell you this weekend couldn't have gone any worse for an ACC fan than it did from top to bottom. It was a rough weekend, brother. But, you know, like Pop say on Friday, you live to fight another day. So
that's right.
Hopefully moving forward, they learn something from this. And take a step in the right direction. But it was a tough weekend for sure.
That was brutal. And I want to go ahead, man. We're going to go ahead and recap some of those games that happened this weekend. And I'm going to start with the biggest one, where it was number 3 Clemson facing the 5th ranked team in the Georgia Bulldogs. And I got to go ahead and tell you, Coty, when I was watching this football game, right, I'm looking at Clemson's offense. And I don't think I've ever been as disgusted as I ever been in my life watching Clemson play offensive football than I was watching that football game. Because it looked like the game plan was vanilla. There were so many dropbacks for DJ Uiagalelei, and the Clemson Tigers offensive line couldn't even block the guys up front. So I thought at some point they should have made adjustments and just let me get the football out of this man's hand, because this pass rush is really, really serious, right? Those offensive linemen for Clemson didn't stand a chance against that pass rush. And we even talked about that in last week's show, that the defensive lines in both of these groups, and it was a defensive game, but offensively, I didn't think Clemson was there. They definitely weren't the most physical team. And you mentioned the slot receiver position, Coty, last week. That is one of the things that was missing so much for the Clemson offense, because you're used to seeing a little shifty guy in that slot, being able to beat that man coverage and that aggressive press coverage. We didn't see that. And then I also brought up that I think the only position on the Clemson offense that had a deficiency was the running back position. And we seen how vital Travis Etienne not being there hurt that Clemson team, because they weren't even able to rush the football. So from your point of view, what do you think about those things, like the Clemson offense and how they performed?
Piggybacking off what you said, it was the most frustrating game I've watched as a Clemson fan in a long time, probably since 2010. My last year was 2011, and that was when Chad Morris ushered in this new spread, fast-paced offense that Clemson has been running the last 10 years. But what was really frustrating was the fact that they gave up on the run so early.
Mm-hmm.
They only had 9 rushes. They rushed for 2 yards. You're not going to beat anybody with those numbers. And for as great as Georgia's D-line is, and they will continue to be, I would have loved to see Clemson's offensive coordinator, and hell, even the quarterback, be like, listen, this drop back passing, this 5-step passing isn't working. Let me check out of this and run the ball. I don't know if he has that ability or that type of clout with his coaches, but there definitely should have been a change made. And mentioning the slot receiver, I mentioned Spector, number 13, last week as somebody to watch for. And I lied to you not. The following day after we recorded the podcast, I seen on his Instagram that he was dealing with issues from COVID, and he was out for a certain amount of time. And I don't think they know how long that's going to be. And as great as Justin Ross and Nagata and Frank Latson Jr. are, those guys aren't slot guys. And they had a tough time working in that short area space. I mean, hell, the only touchdown of the game, the pick 6, came from Justin Ross in the slot and the guy stepping in front of him and taking the slant back for 60 or however many yards it was.
Let me harp on that really quick, because I'm glad you brought that up. So I'm trying to, when I talk to a lot of guys that's at the college level, I'm trying to get them to understand the game of football a little bit more better, right? And when it comes to quarterback and wide receiver, and it comes to communicating with one another, right? When I watched the play, right, the DB already aligned 1.5 yards inside of that receiver, right? So right then, if I'm Ross and I know I have a slant route, I know I can't run my slant route the normal way. I'm going to run my route. I'm going to push up, and instead of pushing up 5 or 6 and going at an angle, I'm pushing up 5 and 6 and coming like an under route. So I could come flat so that DB can't cut across my face. Because pre-snap reads, if you're looking at all the receivers across the board, told you that they were in man coverage, right? Pre-snap reads told you that these defensive backs are playing inside. And you even seen the DB even jumping it before the ball was let go. Now, from a quarterback's perspective, when I look at that, okay, I understand that this DB is a yard and a half inside of this receiver. I can't lead him on that slant. I got to put that on his back hip. You see what I'm saying? That's where communication, and that's what probably wasn't the first time they seen that lining up. So while they go to the sidelines, that's the opportunity to have that communication. Hey, what are you guys seeing? Hey, they're playing inside leverage on here. Let's hit them we're going to hit them thinking we're going to go with a slant. Then we're going to go to return route. You're right. Things like that. Or if I'm going to run this slant, hey, QB, I'm coming in flat so he don't jump in and pick it off. And that was the difference in the game, that pick six. Didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to explain to people, I want people to understand in those situations, things that could have transpired, the communication, how important it is for receiver and quarterback, right? Quarterbacks understanding the leverage of DBs, pre-snap read, and things of that nature. And then Justin Ross, the last thing I'm going to say, that guy picked that ball off. Your ass better be chasing that guy to go take him down.
Absolutely.
Right? I don't give a damn if you know he's finna score. I need you to head that way. I need you to head that way to go make it look like you're trying to go get him, even though you're not going to catch him. But go ahead, my brother. My bad.
Speaking on that, as a DB, when we get a interception, every week in practice, we do a turnover drill. Mm-hmm. Whoever intercepts the ball, somebody else on that defense, the first person you go pick up is the intended receiver. Because if you look at the history of the game, most of the time, the guy who the ball is being intended for ends up coming back, making the tackle, or either stripping the defender and forcing a turnover. I don't even think anybody picked him up. But even before the guy picked it off, the defensive back didn't drive as hard as he could have. He was kind of hesitant.
He was
kind of hesitant, like, do I see what I believe? Do I believe what I see? Is it really happening? And I would have liked to seen Ross attack the ball more. It's kind of like it's kind of like everybody was hesitant and he kind of just let the guy step in front of him. But Georgia played a hell of a game. Their D-line took over. Their linebackers took over. I would have liked to see more from Clemson on offense. I was very impressed with what I seen from Clemson on defense, from the defensive line all the way to the secondary. And I'm going to tell you one thing, that number 1 for Clemson from Austin, Texas, the true freshman that was thrown into the fire because of Nolan Turner, number 24, not being available. He is the real damn deal. And he will be one of the best safeties in the country, not only this year, but the next 2-3 years, however long he's at Clemson. Give me your take from an offensive perspective for Georgia. We talked about Clemson. Tell me about your thoughts on Georgia this past weekend.
For Georgia, I think they were the most physical team, right? I think they were the most physical. Running. Listen, and one of the things I tried to explain to fans, because I seen Zamir White's tweet verbatim. His Instagram story, I can't say what it was, but he posted a picture running over a defender for Clemson. And it was something like, I don't play with kids, play with your own kids. Something to that matter. I don't know the exact words.
It was something with kids in it.
I tweeted it. And a lot of people were like, hey, he didn't have a good game. He only had 76 yards. You'd think somebody would tweet that or put that on there if they have a great game. And what I'm trying to get everybody to understand, that the full picture of a football game, right? These are two great defenses going against one another. This man just ran over a person for Clemson, not just one time, but in games like that, you don't expect people to have 100 yards. If you have 70 plus yards in a game like that, that's a damn good game in my book. And if you are the most physical team, that's a damn good game in my book. So that's one of the things I was trying to get fans to understand, is that, okay, when you have a great defense like Clemson and you put up 70 plus yards rushing and not even that many attempts, and you average 5-point-something yards a carry, I think you had a good game in my book. That's something you can brag about against the number 3 team in the country. That's something you can brag about in my eyes. So for fans who were kind of misguided by my tweet, that's what I meant by my tweet. He played the game, rightfully so. He has the right to go on there and put that on his thing because, number one, the picture says everything that y'all need to know. He ran over a defender. So
Listen,
that's one of the things I wanted to get across. But I think Georgia, I think that win for them offensively for JT Daniels' mindset was huge going forward, because I think it's something that the offense could build on. Were they great? No, I don't think either offense was great. I
right.
think both of the defenses were great, or good enough to win. But I think it's a stepping stone for Georgia down the line to be better and things they can piggyback off of, because now they look at it, okay, if we survive this Clemson game, we got confidence like hell. We think we can hang with anybody, because this Clemson team and this defense has been one of the best in college football the last 7-8 years.
Right. I think JT Daniels was efficient.
Yep.
I don't think their coaches gave him too much to handle. I think they gave him just enough, and he executed the
Don't look
way
for
they
us.
needed him to. The way they needed him to. And back to that running back for Georgia. And it was somewhat by committee, but White was the spearhead of it. I tell you one thing, when they went to that 4-minute offense in the fourth quarter to seal the game, he imposed his will. So he may have not had 100 yards or 8 touchdowns or anything like that. But when it was nut cutting time and they needed to move those chains to run the clock out, when Clemson had 3 timeouts left, Clemson had a chance to stop them and get the ball back for their offense, and they couldn't get off the field. And he was the spearhead who led them. And there was one play that Clemson defense gave up that I felt was the dagger. And I want to say it was in the third quarter. They had Georgia like 3rd and 13 right after a penalty. And Clemson's defensive coordinator called an all-out blitz, and they ran a screen, and they got the first down. And I was so frustrated, because I remember when I played DB, I used to hate when defensive coordinators would call all-out blitzes on 3rd and long, because the ball is getting out yesterday.
You're either gonna run a draw. This, from a defensive mindset, you're gonna run a draw, so you don't get in trouble, or you're gonna run a screen so nothing bad happens.
We call it give up football. We call it give up football.
Exactly.
And that play, I felt, even though Clemson kept competing and making plays on defense, I felt like that kind of broke their back, because there was no way in hell they were supposed to give up a 3rd and 13 to a screen play, because the rush isn't going to get there. They're not maxing up and going deep. So that play really frustrated me. And I want to say that was in the third quarter or early fourth, one of the two.
And another thing for Clemson offense that I wasn't used to seeing is that this defense, well, special teams in the defense gave them 2 turnovers, right? And the offense was non-existent. So the sudden change for Georgia's defense was great. The trying to capitalize on turnovers for the Clemson offense was terrible. What y'all Barkley say? Terrible. It was terrible. And I thought that was big, because you had an opportunity to get an interception from JT Daniels, but your offense didn't do nothing with it.
Right.
You had the turnover on special teams because the ball hit a guy's foot, but you didn't capitalize on it. And those are 2 things that I'm used to. One thing that I'm used to seeing from this Clemson offense: when you turn the football over, they're gonna make you pay, and that didn't happen.
Clemson offense was in Georgia's end zone the whole game. I mean, backed up the whole game, and they could never flip the field. They couldn't flip the field, and Georgia just kept that pressure on. And boy, when I tell you, the Georgia fans were rocking. They had me thinking we was in Athens. It was a hell of a game, and hats off to Georgia. And I expect Clemson to rebound strong, but I'm nervous because their strength of schedule. I don't know if they're going to have enough to get back to where they were to show the people that vote to give them a chance to be in the playoffs.
So two teams who I think could probably help Clemson out on their road, right? And it's Virginia Tech and NC State. But I want to talk about Virginia Tech first, because they got that big win over UNC. And remember, we both picked UNC, but remember I said this is a bad matchup for a first game for UNC.
You did say that.
And their Virginia Tech's quarterback, man, Braxton Burmeister, man, he did it with his arms and his legs. Now, he wasn't outstanding, but he did it with both, right? But I want to talk about this Virginia Tech defense, who forced 3 interceptions on a Heisman Trophy candidate. They, not only that, they had 6 sacks and 9 tackles for loss. So I'm going to go with Amari Barno, defensive end that we talked about last week as well. Had a sack and a half, and he had 3.5 TFLs himself.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, NFL GMs and NFL scouts are drooling over that young man because he's just scratching the surface at the position. So his upside, man, is crazy. But then I look over at Sam Howell with a secondary for Virginia Tech. Number one, they were physical.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things I thought, because when you started throwing footballs down the field for North Carolina's receivers, who are very, very smaller and thin, when you gave them a little nudge, it's like they're falling all over the place. Like they couldn't recover from it. Right. So I thought the secondary of Virginia Tech was very physical, but Sam Howell, his performance, and I said beforehand, for North Carolina to have a shot to go undefeated and reach Clemson in the ACC championship game, Sam Howell couldn't be good. He had to be great because he had to make up for whatever they lost last year. He wasn't great in that game. He was awful. He was god awful. And that offense went 2 for 10 on third downs. You are not going to win. That's one point of emphasis that we normally talk about in the game, y'all. We talk about situational football. Third downs, turnovers. Taking care of the football, you got to win third downs. They didn't. They had 3 interceptions. They were 2 for 10 on third downs. And I got to give the credit. I have to give the credit to Virginia Tech, that Hokie defense, Justin Fuente, and Lane Stadium. Them fans at Lane Stadium, boy, when I seen that stadium before the game started, I said, now this is what college football about. This is all about. This is why we need these fans in the stands. Lane Stadium was rocking, man. I just got off a Zoom with Mike Vick talking about that, talking about Lane Stadium and how crazy it is and how tough it is to play there. So I hope I have opportunity to actually go see a game there one day, man, because you talk about traditions and you talk about schools who really love their football. Virginia Tech Hokies in Lane Stadium and in that community, that's what college football is all about.
Yes. I was blessed to play at Lane Stadium in a night game my senior year back in 2011. And I must say, I put Lane Stadium up there with Death Valley for Clemson and Doak Campbell Stadium down there with Florida State. It's that loud and that electric, and the fans are right up on you. And it was good to see Virginia Tech get back to that energy that we're known, that they're known for having on defense. I think they came out and set the tone early in the first half. They dominated the clock. Like you said, the secondary was physical with the receivers. I think UNC's receivers have to step up and give Sam Howell better resources. He obviously has to play better, and I think he will, because he's the guy. He's the LeBron of that team, so he has to be himself for them to win. But I think he needs help from his receivers. But like you said, we got to give all the credit to Virginia Tech, and they're going to make a lot of noise in this conference this year, and I think they can play with anybody. I mean, hell, North Carolina came in as a 10th ranked team. They beat them. So, Virginia Tech, it was a notice for everybody.
Yep. Another team I believe in, NC State Wolfpack. And we spoke about that two-headed monster that they have at running back. Man, both of those guys, Zonovan Knight, he had 16 carries, 163 yards, a touchdown. Ricky Person Jr. had 16 carries, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then had 43 yards receiving and a touchdown. But Devin Leary, man, he's back for them, over 200 yards passing, a touchdown. Their defense held South Florida to 3 for 16 on third downs, another area that we talk about. But I'm telling people, watch out for the NC State Wolfpack, because they went 8-4 last year. And I love what Dave Duren is doing with that ball club. Don't be surprised if this team is a team that can contend in the ACC, them and Virginia Tech. Because, I like everything. They have the solid defense. They have the pieces on offense, and they have the coach. So I'm solid right now. And then they play Mississippi State coming up this weekend. And that game right there, boy, it's an SEC opponent. We ain't do too good against the SEC. The ACC ain't do too good. So that's a ACC versus SEC opponent, and we need it. We need it.
We need it bad, NC State. If y'all hear us, please answer the call. We need y'all bad. But like you said, man, NC State is going to be a problem for a lot of people in the ACC, because when you can run the ball the way they run the ball and control the clock, that can neutralize a lot of high-powered offenses. Yep. And I tell you one thing, that number 32 for NC State, the linebacker, he was all over that field. He had to have taken a bath in the cold tub right after that game. The way he was all over that field, I know he was sore as hell. But he's a hell of a player, and it was good to see them rocking. USF, my guys. Jeff Scott and company. We still ain't fixed that defense, guys.
No.
You can't beat anybody giving up 40. But one thing I did like about USF is that quarterback they had come in, his name was McLean, I think, the left-hand guy. He brought them some energy, man. I think y'all have y'all quarterback down there because that first guy, he had some guys open early on, but he couldn't hit them. But NC State kind of shored up their defense as it went on, and they kept playing. But I think the difference in the game was from the onset, North Carolina State could convert third downs. Oh, yeah. It didn't matter whether it was 3rd and 5, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 11. They kept moving those chains and extending drives, and I think they just wore South Florida down. And then when you add those running backs in with it, whether it's running or passing, tell me what you think about, I can't remember his name, but the big receiver for North Carolina State, number 86. He made a lot of plays. He jumped out to me.
I think Emeka Emenzi is 36.
86.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me what you think about him.
I think it's Emeka Emenzi or I think it's Thayer Thomas, one of the two. But I like both. I think both of those guys I really do like. I think he's strong. He's physical. I think he can beat one-on-one coverage. And I like the way he makes contested catches. You know what I mean? So I was high on him coming into this season. I was high on this team, period. But I really like Emeka Emenzi at the wide receiver position. I do.
He really jumped off the screen to me. First of all, his size, but like you were saying, how he was going up and making contested catches. That's what we were expecting from the Clemson guys going into this week.
Yes.
Similar in size. He played his size. I felt like the Clemson guys didn't play up to their size.
I agree with you.
And I agree with you. A lot of that had to do with the quarterback not having time and holding the ball too long, but, it's still a team game. So shout out to NC State holding it down for us, man. We needed it bad.
Them man in Virginia Tech. And I'm going to breeze through a couple more other ones before I get to the Alabama and Miami game. But hell, I probably said it right, Alabama. They need to play them damn selves. But Duke didn't help the conference, man. They lost to Charlotte. I know David Cutcliffe. They struggling down there at Duke, man. They got to get that program. I won't say 100% turned around, but they got to get that program to be a decent. Georgia Tech lost to Northern Illinois 22-21. Jeff Sims, a guy who I was high on, a guy who I thought he needed to get better in the passing game. He went out with an arm injury, but that wasn't the bad part. His backup came in, Jordan Yates, and actually helped lead Georgia Tech back to a little comeback. So I don't know how they're going to deal with that going forward. And then my Louisville Cardinals last night. Oh, man, my Louisville Cardinals lost to Ole Miss. And it just seemed like, man, Ole Miss was the most physical team. I seen a physicality from Ole Miss that I didn't see last year. And the thing I didn't like about Louisville defensively is that when you have a quarterback like Matt Corral who was up for the Heisman, right? You can't give them free access with receivers. You can't let receivers have free access and just basically just run on air. It was a 4th and 6. A 4th and 6 now. And the DB was playing 8 to 10 yards off on 4th and 6. Mm-hmm. And I pointed it out on the screen in the suite before the play even got ran. I said, he got to get up on him.
You knew he was going that way.
Guess what he threw the ball to?
That guy
that was 8 to 10 yards off on 4th and 6. Let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with Bet Rivers yet, now's the time because they're offering $250 match bonus for your first deposit. What sets them apart is that they just require one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. Yes, I said that right, cash money. With their new Rush Play Instant Approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With the football season kicking off, get in on the action by going to betrivers.com today or by downloading the Bet Rivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Make sure you call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Javon, man, we appreciate you being on, man. Being from Charlotte, North Carolina, how the hell did you get to South Carolina State? In all these ACC schools' backyards, how the hell did they miss out on a talent like you, man? How did you get to South Carolina State?
First, let me correct you. It's Salisbury, North Carolina. I live in Charlotte now. I live in Charlotte now.
Salisbury.
But man, really just coming out of high school, I basically didn't have the grades, well, not the SAT score. So I had to sit out for like a semester, like my first semester of college. And basically, like, South Carolina State was the only ones that kind of, you know, worked with me and didn't give up on me. Everybody else kind of just went away from me and just, you know, like pulled all scholarships or interest in me. So State was the only ones that kind of gave me a chance.
That's what's up, man. I remember when I was at Clemson and we used to play y'all, I always look forward to that game because that party the night of the game was always the best party of the year. Like it was what I used to invite my homeboys from the crib down for to come party after that game because it was always a lituation when you guys came to play us in Clemson.
That's crazy. Everybody told me that though, but of course I ain't never see it. But
yeah,
everybody said the same thing, that it go down after our game at Clemson.
Being at South Carolina State, what was the experience like when you were there? I went to Clemson. Harry went to Louisville. What was it like being at an HBCU?
I mean, you know, I feel like it was just actually a real family. Everybody was kind of close. Even like my professors, my teammates, we all stayed in the same building. And just, you know, just a grind, really. I mean, I kind of came in there on a mission, trying to get to the league. So I really didn't do all the partying and all the other stuff, all the other activities. But it was just, you know, a grind and just, you know, like a big family.
And man, we talk about HBCUs, especially a lot now. I've been familiar with HBCUs. So my cousin, Derek O'Neal, played running back at South Carolina State.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So he from Gainesville, Florida. So he actually played at South Carolina State. I used to take a couple visits up there. Now, I ain't gonna tell you what I used to take a couple visits for, but I used to take a couple visits up there. You know what I mean? I used to take a couple visits up there, have my little time for me to get on back where I gotta go now. But I was in and out of there. You
ain't
feel me? But man,
that's the only thing.
Yeah, but talking about the HBCUs, man, and leveling the playing field, we see what Deion's doing. We see Eddie George, somebody who I know very well, what he's doing at TSU. How important is it, man, for these young cats coming up today to understand that, okay, we understand these aren't major D1 programs that you're used to hearing about, but you got the NIL deals now. And you see what Master P's son is doing at TSU with the NIL. You see Deion's son, right? You see where Deion's at right now, they got one of the number one corners, I think may have been from JUCO to come there over Georgia, right? How important do you think it is for these young cats to understand that going to a HBCU, you can still thrive and go to the league, even though they didn't have anyone drafted. But I went to the Black College Football Hall of Fame induction not too long ago, right here in Atlanta.
Yep.
And I'm in there with a Mel Blunt. I'm in there with a Doug Williams and those type of guys, because in a Jerry Rice, those guys who are in the Hall of Fame and came from HBCUs. But how important you think it is that these guys understand, man, it's okay to go to HBCU and you can still thrive?
I mean, it's big. Like I said, when I was coming out of high school, of course, you know, every 18-year-old, I was just thinking about the NFL. And when I went to South Carolina State, that's the first thing I noticed was some of the players that went to the NFL, like the Harry Carsons and the Donnie Shells, and even like some of the Robert Porches and stuff like that. So to me, in my mind, that's all I needed to see. And in my mind, I knew I had a chance to be able to reach my dreams, because like even today's time, it's even more emphasized about the HBCU. But when I was coming out, it wasn't a big thing, and I still made it. So, you know, like, it don't really matter where you go. Like I tell everybody, it don't matter where you go. It's just what you do when you get there. So, you know, it's just like you say, it's just people. I see people starting to understand that, and you're starting to see a real trend going on right now.
And I think another thing that's good for the young cats coming up now is that I'll say when I was coming up, it wasn't more relevant to go to a small school and, make it to the league, right?
Mhm.
But now when I finally came out, you had so many guys. I mean, you had Leotis McCalvin, right? You had Rogers Cromartie went to TSU. Those guys were my draft class that went first round.
Mm-hmm.
Now you at to the point now where if you good and you can play, they gonna find you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, and what I tell people is that, bro, you just want a scholarship. You want your school to be paid for. You don't want to be coming out of pocket to pay for a scholarship. I don't care where you go. And we see it in NCAA tournament in basketball. You see these small schools giving these big schools hell in these tournaments. You want to know why? Because 1 through 5 on that court can pass, dribble, or shoot. Versus a 5-man big school, all he can do is just stand on the basket and lay things up. So it's not about where you go, man. It's about you taking advantage of the opportunity that you get and you getting your school paid for. That's the most important thing I think people got to, start registering in their mind as well.
I believe the same thing. I didn't know how high school was until one time I just looked at my scholarship and see how much they was paying for it. So I know that is a big thing. Just like you said, just being able to get your school paid for, even if you don't go to the NFL. At least that's something you can always have and fall back on. But like I said, man, it's just I love my HBCU, and I definitely didn't take it for granted. And I just like you said, I love seeing the Dion what Dion doing down there, and just
they down there cutting up.
Yeah, I was just watching a video yesterday of him running on the side.
You see Gilly?
Gilly, yeah.
What is Gilly doing, man? That man took the ball and spiked the ball. I said, he gave me the ball. What was I supposed to do?
I was crying laughing looking at that yesterday. So, I'm just happy, like it's trending in the right direction, and hopefully, some of the younger kids coming out will see the same thing I see.
What I love about what Dion is down there doing and bringing those people to that program, like Gilly the rapper, any of our homeboys that we grew up with, if you put them on the sideline, that's how every single one of them is going to react. Like, that's just like, that's our culture. That's how we raise. Like, that's how we support each other. That's how we rock 100%. With each other. Jay Wobb, give us a prediction for Clemson, South Carolina State this weekend.
Man, like that. I'm gonna say, I say about 35-14. I ain't gonna do nothing. We can do a little something against y'all boys, man.
Word. Man, hey, and last but not least, before we get up off here, we want to say we appreciate you coming on. That's love. Yep. How many sacks you going for this year? Let's go ahead and put it out there, man.
Well, they say
hopefully none in week 1.
Hey, week 1. I need to pop it off. But I was always taught, they said, whatever you say, you get half of it. So I'm gonna say 20.
That's what I like to hear.
Man, and I gotta mention, man, that D-line group that you in, man, with you, Fletcher Cox, Ryan Kerrigan came in the free agency, Barnett, Brent Graham. Man, y'all guys gonna be hell to deal with, boy. And a lot of people looking over that defensive line because they focusing on other people's defensive line, but not me. Because see, I do the pregame show for the Falcons, and I host a show weekly for the Falcons, and I watch film, and they gonna have to bring it, man, because that defensive line, hell, boy. I'm telling you now.
We ready for it, man, and just we've been waiting, going through all them.
I already know.
Just put on. It's time to put
on. I wish you a successful year, man, and a healthy one as that as well. And like Coty said, man, we appreciate you coming on for real.
Nah, thank y'all.
Good luck this weekend and all season, brother. I appreciate you.
I already appreciate y'all.
All right, Mike.
Yes, sir. All right. I just wanted to let you guys know about Field of 12 Media, a brand new podcast and digital media network covering college football by the people that know it best. Brought to you by Shoot Your Shot Productions, the folks behind the Field of 68. The Field of 12 gives you insight into the game we all love by the people that have lived it. Trevor Knight and Bryce Petty covering the Big 12. Joshua Perry and Christian Hackenberg covering the Big 10. Yogi Roth and Ted Robson on the Pac-12. And of course, we'll continue to be your go-to source on everything ACC football and more. Check the links below to find the rest of our shows. The Field of 12, where college football happens.
But Coty, we got to get to Alabama versus Miami. Lord have mercy. We got to get to this NFL team facing this college team this past weekend. And I got to tell you, Coty, I was very, very impressed with the youngster Bryce Young and the way he handled himself. But let me tell you what I'm more impressed with. I'm impressed with their offensive coordinator and their head coach, Nick Saban, in understanding that you have a young guy coming into a situation where there's going to be a lot of pressure, but them getting him going early, right? Completing passes to his main guy in Mechie the third, right? So now he's in this groove. And, man, there was a play where he scrambled to the right, down in the, I don't think it was the red zone, but slightly outside of the red zone. Scrambled to the right, but instead of trying to force things, he threw it out of bounds. Man, I smiled ear to ear because I said, okay, this kid gets it. Okay, we're going to live to play another down versus me forcing this football and causing an interception. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to throw it away and play another down. But, man, is Alabama loaded. They got another kid at wide receiver, Jameson Williams, who's the next one up, who had over 100 yards and a touchdown in that game. They got Mechie the third, Slade Bolden, Brian Robinson at the running back position. Defensively, they never gave De'Aaron King and that Miami offense an opportunity. And I thought offensively for Miami, I didn't think they used tempo to their advantage either. Mm-hmm. I just didn't think so. And I didn't think they stood a chance. I didn't think they stood a chance before the game. I didn't think they stood a chance while watching the game. And I think, honestly, if Alabama would have played Georgia or Clemson in week one, I thought they would have blew both of them out as well. That's how good I think Alabama is right now. I think they would have blew Georgia and Clemson out this weekend if they would have played both of those teams.
It's not a surprise that Bryce Young is the highest rated quarterback recruit to ever step foot on Alabama's campus. He looked every bit of the part. He looked like he had been there before. So a lot of credit has to go to his coaches. And I think you got to give a lot of credit to the guy that's up in New England, Mac Jones, because he sit and watched him all last year. And it definitely rubbed off on him because, damn, he put on a show from first quarter to the end. And Alabama is Alabama. I think they do a great job preparing their guys, and they're just head and shoulders above everybody else. I didn't think Miami had a chance before the game, but seeing how this week's games went on, I find it hard to believe that anybody's going to have a chance. Knock on wood, barring injury. Yeah. Good luck facing Alabama because it doesn't matter who they throw in there. I mean, one of their best receiving weapons was on the bench the whole game because he didn't – I don't know what happened during the week, but he didn't handle his business properly, and Coach Saban made a point. And if they would have never mentioned it, I would have never known.
They had a tight end come. They had a tight end come out the blue. Latu, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Latu. And I'm like, man, like where did this one come from? He had 2 touchdowns. I said, well, where did he come from? Right, and then we see what Jameson Williams did. Like I said, man, they just plug guys in and play, man. They just plug guys in and play. But Miami, for people saying the U is back, the U's not back yet. They're not back. Shit, we're going to stop that shit right now. The U is not back. They got a ways to go. Okay? They got a ways to go.
But for Miami fans, don't get too down because Alabama would have did that to anybody. They would have did everybody that to in college football. So, just keep working hard, keep your head up, and look forward to next week. You still have a chance in the ACC. Because I can guarantee you're not going to see a team as well-rounded and as good as that operation you just faced this past Saturday in Atlanta, Georgia. They are a handful. Like, it's a sight to see, especially coming from the NFL. Mm-hmm. It's amazing to watch them because I feel like a lot of college teams, especially offensively, I feel like they're more quantity, not quality. They're just trying to run plays. They're trying to tempo you. They're trying to wear you out. They're trying to trick you. Alabama's not doing that. Alabama is strictly quality.
Hey, we here to just whoop your ass and go home.
And
we're going to put this hard hat on and this lunch pail, and we're going to whoop your ass, and we're going to go home. We're not going to celebrate. We ain't going to jive. Come here, jive turkey. What's up, my man? Hey, this is my boy. They don't give a damn about being your friend. The head coach don't give a damn about being nobody's friend. The head coach demands excellence. The head coach, what a lot of people don't understand, treats them like grown men as well. He ain't babysitting them and doing all that. You don't never hear nothing about no Alabama player. Oh, this guy's not doing this. This guy's not doing that. No, they don't play that in that program. But they showing up to whoop you. They showing up to whoop your ass and very unapologetic about it.
And it's evident why they're like that, because if you don't handle your business, there's a killer right behind you that's just as good, if not better than you. And all he's waiting for is that opportunity. Like, it's amazing to watch, man. Like, I was talking to some of my Alabama friends that played there in the past, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. Like, the way he prepares those guys and gets them ready. And it's no surprise that it's so many of them in the NFL doing what they're doing. Like, they step in these NFL buildings day one ready. And it's a sight to see, man.
I want to chop it up about a guy who I was high on going into week 1, and Mackenzie Milton from Florida State, the quarterback. And I actually thought going into that game, he was going to be the starter, right? Just because I know what I've seen from Jordan Travis, right? And we seen that game, Jordan Travis struggled, had 3 interceptions. He comes out the game because his helmet comes out. Mackenzie Milton comes in and helps lead the Florida State Seminoles to a comeback against Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who's ranked, Notre Dame's ranked 9th, right? Yeah, ranked 9th.
Yes.
And all I could say is in my head is, why didn't Mike Norvell start Mackenzie Milton from jump? Why didn't he start this young man from jump? But to see this young man on the football field, from a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint, from that gruesome injury that he had a few years back, was a thing of beauty for me to see. And then it's like every time he was running around, I was like, oh, like just hoping he didn't get hit, because I'm thinking about what happened to him and what he had to overcome to even get back in that position. But I think moving forward, man, for Florida State, they have to start Mackenzie Milton, because in my eyes, they give them the best chance to win games. And if he would have started in that game, I think they would have won that game. And Florida State was just, some of the stuff was weird early on for me, because they ran screens early on. But I'm a fan of screens, but I'm a fan of window dressing when you run screens. Right. I'm a fan of the offensive player skills people running routes to make things look like it's their route combinations with the screens, not just running screens. Because I think like 3 times on one possession, it may be 3 out of 3 plays, or 3 out of 4, 3 out of 5 plays, they ran like screens. And I was like, damn, at what point are they going to switch something up? And I don't mind the screens, but you got to window dress them a little bit to give the defense and give their eyes other things to look at versus just keying on who's getting the screen.
Absolutely.
Yep. What do you think about Mackenzie Milton, though, coming back and playing, though, man? Because that was a huge hurdle for him.
Man, what a story to see that young man go through all he's went through and come back like he didn't miss. He put on a hell of a show. And I knew from the moment he buckled his chin strap and ran on that field, he was ready. He just had a look in his eyes and an aura about him. And I think the team morale immediately rose up when he stepped on that field. It's like their confidence completely 100%. Changed. And I have to give credit to Florida State's coach, because we didn't badmouth him last week, but we kind of put him on the spot about gaining his players' trust and getting those guys to run through a wall for him. And boy, did they run through a wall for him. That running back that Florida State has is the real damn deal.
And I thought they should have ran the ball even more.
Whoo-wee.
I thought they should have ran the ball even more. That touchdown run, I'm so sorry, bro, to cut you off, bro. That touchdown run, let me tell you what I tweeted. And I tweeted basically to young guys who are running backs with aspirations of playing in the NFL and college football one day, right? If you can't make nobody miss,
can't play
in the foxhole, if you can't win one-on-one as a running back in the foxhole at any point, the running back position is not for you, because everybody can't be blocked. But the way he won one-on-one on that long touchdown, I said, oh my goodness, that nasty. I said, that's nasty. That's nasty. But young running backs, if you can't make nobody miss in that foxhole, go ahead and switch your position now, because the running back position not for you. Because it's always going to be somebody there with you one-on-one. You just got to make that guy miss.
Absolutely. And also, it was good to see Florida State's defense flying around.
Yeah.
They look like those Florida State defenses from the mid to late 90s. Those guys looked prepared. They looked hungry. And, boy, they was talking shit.
Man, Jermaine Johnson, transferred from Georgia, number 11. On
everywhere.
At defensive end position.
Everywhere.
Or
Notre Dame, that running back, number 23, the tight end Mayer, and that free safety Hamilton. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. He reminds me of Justin Simmons from the Denver Broncos.
Bro, did you see that interception he had? The
Man,
ground
he looked like Ed Reed. He looked like
ground
Ed Reed.
that he covered to go get that interception? I said, how is that even possible for him to cover ground like that?
There's not too many NFL guys that can cover ground like that.
No.
That's like Ed Reed, Earl Thomas in their prime type plays. Like that was as a DB, that was a beautiful thing to watch. And that was a hell of a game. But I'm with you. I think if Florida State starts Milton from the jump, I don't know, because that kid is a hell of a player. And the most exciting thing from that whole game was seeing his mom in the stands. She didn't know whether to jump up, whether to cry. She was just full of so many emotions.
Happy for her baby.
We have kids, you know, so I'm just putting myself in that position. How would I be in that moment? I would have probably cried and covered my eyes. I probably wouldn't have been able to watch it. They said this man would be lucky to be able to walk without pain. And the fact that he's on the national stage, like being completely transparent, when he stepped on the field, he was the best player on the field for both teams. He was the best player on the field. So that story is amazing for anybody to never give up, have persistence, have consistency, have discipline, and always believe in yourself, because all you need is opportunity. Because if he's not starting from here on out, they might as well close that school.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough for me to watch. That's gonna be
tough
for me to watch, man.
I'm excited to see them play this year.
Me too. In the ACC, man, they did have a rough weekend, but I want to get to two games, man, possibly that the ACC can win over SEC opponents. And the first one I have is NC State. They're -2.5 favorite at Mississippi State. Total for that game is 54.5. And I think I'm going to go with NC State covering the 2.5. And I think they're going to put up points. So I'm gonna go with the over in that game as well. And then you got Pitt, Pat Narduzzi, their head coach, Kenny Pickett back, Jordan Addison. When it comes to the Pitt, they're playing Tennessee. Josh Heupel's the head coach there. New reform offense for Tennessee. They had a lot of guys transfer with the things that went on in that program the last few years. But when you look at this Pitt team, they lost about 4 or 5 guys who are now on NFL rosters. I want to see what their defense is going to be like against the offense of Tennessee. And in that game, I think Pitt is a 3.5 favorite. And the total for that game is 57. So I'm going to go with the over on that one, just because of the simple fact that Josh Heupel was a quarterback the head coach for Tennessee. And I know what his type of offenses do. And I know what they like to put up points and run and gun and shoot that thing. And then I'm actually going to go with Tennessee actually winning the game too. So I'm gonna go with them covering. I'm gonna go with them. I'm going against the grain this week. I'm going against the grain, man.
My problem,
because I won't pick. Hell, maybe if we choose the SEC team, an ACC team will actually win.
Maybe so. Maybe so. I'm definitely going with NC State this week. With what I've seen from them last week, I was thoroughly impressed with them. And my pride, being from Kingsport, Tennessee, and the Tennessee Vols not recruiting me, and and being from there and knowing how much I have a disdain for their fans and how they act like they're great and they haven't won shit since 1998. But that's a whole different story. My disdain for the Tennessee Volunteers will not allow me to pick them in a million years. So damn it, I'm going with Pitt.
My dog say, forget all that shit you talking about here.
I don't care nothing about that.
They ain't recruit me.
They ain't recruit me.
We not going there.
But, man, we need it more than anything, man. The ACC has to answer the call. We had a tough weekend, and We have to bounce back. We need these 2 games heavily, heavily, heavily.
Ladies and gentlemen, man, that is episode 3. Episode 3 of the One-on-Ones podcast with myself, Harry Douglas, and Coty Sensabaugh. Make sure, man, y'all check us out next week as we're going to be wrapping this thing up and telling y'all about the matchups from the previous week, things that's coming in the upcoming weeks, and all that good stuff. So shout out to everybody, and we'll see you.